It's got a little bit of football, and I just want to quickly touch on Wellington Phoenix women signings because they have signed two imports. We have Lucia Leon and Ellie Walker. Tell us a bit about these two signings for the Wellington Phoenix as they rebuild their roster. No coach yet. Drone Lady hasn't been, she still doesn't have the job, so she's still the Drone Lady, but they do have some signings of overseas players.
Yeah, drone lady's still the drone lady, but she kind of does have the job. And even if she doesn't officially, because I think we've still got another, it might be a month. I think it's July when the 12-month suspension ends, and then they can actually sign. Like that's the holdup. That's why they have to wait, is because she's literally suspended for being a drone lady at the moment.
Yeah, so the Drone
But
Lady will remain a Drone Lady because she was the Drone Lady and
yes, she's
she
still
was.
serving her drone lady time, so she has to remain under the drone lady title until that changes. But her wife is the like director of women's football at the club, so I think this, even if she wasn't going to be the coach, she'd probably still have an input in how some of this, yeah, some of these off-season things are being done. This is fascinating though. There's the two signings that they've announced bright and early in the off-season, because up until this point they only really had academy players under contract, plus you know, locals who have been like, yeah, Alyssa Wyndham is still under contract for another year. She's not an academy player, but she's been with the team since the start. So it's sort of like the homegrown brigade, all very young. I think Lara Wall was the only player aged over 22 or 23 of the nine players, I think it was, who were under contract. But now they've added two imports, and not just two imports, but two fairly experienced imports. Uh, Roll through the names again because I've these are new
Lucia
players to me.
Leon and Ellie
That's it.
Walker.
Yeah, Lucia Leona had trouble finding some stats for, because she's got that she's Dominican, but she bought like, and actually captains the Dominican Republic national team. But she was born and raised in Spain and then also a bit in England. She actually played for Tottenham Hotspur for quite a while, came through their academy, didn't play a lot for the first team, but when she did play for the first team, that was at the same time that Rhea Percival was there. So there's a Kiwi crossover from that. But a lot of her stats were under a different name, because it's like a Lucia Leon Perez or whatever it is, you know. Um, she actually played for Western Sydney Wanderers last year. And she actually scored two goals against the Phoenix in a win at Porirua Park. So she's already one of the leading goal scorers from last season at that venue, compared to the team that she's just joined. In fact, if you get rid of the players who are not currently under contract, she might have been last season's top scorer of the players contracted for next season, but at Porirua Park. So it's one of those signings where it feels like you just signed a player who did really well against you. Like you got the best possible version of that. But she's a pretty experienced player. Like I said, she captains a national team. She's played a dozen or so times in the Women's Super League, and she is a speedy, wide defender who can play probably more as a wingback ideally, which is not how the Phoenix played last year. So that might be a glimpse of something different, or she's just going to be asked to be right-sided defender one way or another, but someone who can get forward and whip the ball into the box, maybe overlap with a bit of pace, beat a defender, perhaps a little bit of possibility of that. But as much as anything, it sounds like they've got a defensive player here who can create some attack, which gives them variety, which gives them different options of how they're going to create things, because they didn't have a lot of that last season. They needed more of these kind of options of different players who could stretch the field, and just not relying on Annalie Longo to do kind of everything with a little bit of Alyssa Wyndham for help. It's just not, that wasn't doing the trick. They needed more attacking variety, and here's someone who might give them that. Ellie Walker is very much a centre back. She will come in there, that got that American physicality. She's tall, she's good in the air, which is something they lacked last year. They had a pretty good defensive team, but they didn't necessarily have like players to win those big commanding headers, which works in both ways, because that also becomes an attacking weapon if you can get good set piece delivery which the Phoenix have always had good set piece delivery. What they haven't had, except for the times when Marissa Vandermeer was fit and available, which don't know what's happening there, as she continues her recovery. But having someone who can win a header on an attacking set piece as well is massive, and that was a big avenue for how they scored goals 2 seasons ago when they were quite good. That perhaps we're going to see them restoring that. So two good experienced players who are defensive minded but will also help them in attack.
We hit the end of the All Whites New Zealand under-20s week, basically. And of course, the All Whites did lose to Ukraine since our last podcast. Was there another result for the New Zealand under-20s?
No, their last game was on Sunday, so they had already finished by that point. They lost both games against Chile, 3-1 and 2-1.
So that's 4 games, 1 win, 3 losses, and yet it's pretty positive. Like, I'm feeling good about the state of All Whites football, the All Whites development pipeline, and I'm curious to to ask you, but also try and help you and to come out with some sort of theme or trend that is clear in the All Whites pipeline. And the reason I ask this is because we'll get into the cricket in a jiffy as we finish our podcast. And the New Zealand A women's squad that is going to start their tour of England very soon, the batters score quickly. Whether it's Jess Watkin as a senior batter or a young batter on the rise like Emma McLeod, someone who commanded White Ferns selection like Bella James, all the batters in this New Zealand A squad score runs quickly. They score runs all around the park. They hit boundaries. It's fun. The seamers, Molly Penfold, Bree Illing, Amy Hucker, they're all athletic seamers who don't necessarily rely on the typical slow in-swing style of bowling. Those are 2 themes that I've spotted in how the White Ferns are selecting players for their pipeline. Is there something similar, but not necessarily a selection thing, but just something that you've noticed having watched 2 All Whites games and observed, because it was a closed door situation with the under-20s, is there some sort of connective tissue between the New Zealand under-20s and the All Whites that you have seen, observed, or learned about in recent weeks? Or is there some sort of stylistic trait that is present in both teams?
I can think of a couple of things that do spring to mind between like aspects of the development team that reflects or are mirrored in the All Whites and vice versa, because that's how mirrors work. You know, they reflect both ways. Well, sort of, but anyway, there is definitely a goalkeeping point. Not just the quality of goalkeeping in the age grades and also in the All Whites itself, but also the depth of goalkeeping, because we're in the middle of this little like Alex Paulson versus Max Crocombe duel with the All Whites. Nick Sana's hanging around. Ali Sale's been hanging around. Kay Sims deserves a chance at some point. There's a fair bit of depth there. And then even just in this under-20s team, you got Henry Gray, who's like, on the books at Ipswich Town, is having a very good start to his professional career so far. But he was excellent in the game that one of the 2 games was broadcast in the Chile series. One was behind closed doors, one wasn't, which makes you wonder what was the point. But anyway, Henry Gray was awesome in that second game, but like Albie Kelly-Hill is also in this, would be in the squad if he weren't currently injured. So he's an option. Joe Wallace, who was the keeper who played the first game, he is playing academy team football at West Bromwich Albion. Used to play a little bit for Auckland City back when he was an under-20s player for them. So there's good quality goalkeeping, and there's also good depth of goalkeeping with competition for places in both of those teams. that's one position where I don't think you'd say that about the football ferns, for example, but there are a couple of these other ones definitely do apply to that. One is one I spoke about when we talked about the under-20s last time. I can't remember if that was after the first game or it might have been when the squad was announced, but or it might have actually been on the I think it was actually on the Thursday, the subscriber podcast. So that was the idea that suddenly we seem to have not one but like several creative wide players or attacking midfielder types or wingers or whatever, like who have a bit of pace, who have a bit of skill, who have a bit of creativity, who have a willingness to do things that are a little bit freaky, like maybe let's throw that step over in and run at this dude when I don't necessarily have to. Let's try something. Let's take a risk, roll the dice. Luke Brooks-Smith is a guy who fits in that bag. Gabriel Stone Rodriguez is a guy who fits in that bag. People who have watched the Wellington Phoenix are well aware of those two prospects. But Stipe Jukic also is in that category. Troy Putt, I thought, was the best of them in the game that I was able to watch against Chile. He was really good. He's ex-Birkenhead fella who's currently in the academy team at Minnesota United. So looking to follow on in Michael Boxall's footsteps in a very different way to how Michael Boxall plays. But that swings into the other one, the third and final one that I'd say, which is the traditional one that you do expect from Kiwi footballing teams. But I think there's an argument to say, certainly with the football ferns, but I think even with the All Whites too, arguably, that they maybe went away from this a little bit more, which is just like powerful centre backs. And I get why that was maybe out of vogue for a little while. It's like we want to be able to pass out from the back. We want to be able to play more possession football. We don't want these big lumpy dudes and ladies hanging around in centre back and just like there to be blockers. But the thing that you see now is like Finn Surman is that. Finn Surman is like 1.9 meters tall or something like that. He's huge. He wins heaps of headers. And he's silky with his feet. He's not like he's nothing crazy there, but he's certainly, it's not a weakness of his game or anything. He can control the ball, he can pass the ball, he doesn't panic under pressure. Tyler Bindon is the same height as Finn Surman and is amazing with his feet. Like he scored an overhead kick last season for Reading. Like he's incredible with that stuff. That's genuinely one of the best aspects of his game is how good he is with his feet. Yet he's also a tall, strong centre back who wins challenges on the ground and in the air. This under-20s team, which Tyler Bindon is eligible for, I don't think he'll play, but he's eligible for it. He's the only one in the All Whites scene who could technically go and play at the Under-20 World Cup later this year. But Luca Coveney, son of Vaughan, like Vaughan Coveney used to be the All Whites record goal scorer until Chris Wood overtook his record. But Luca Coveney, as a tall, strong, silky centre back, fits into that same mold like a Tyler Bindon-esque player, not to the same extreme, but you know he's of the same mold, as I say. Noah Dupont, I think he's a little bit younger, but I would put him in that too. He's a tall, strong centre back, currently in the West Bromwich Albion system, along with goalkeeper Joe Wallace. And James Bulkley, who's a little less of a ball player, but he's a bit more like a Nando Pinecker, like a really solid, also again very tall, very good in the air, not as good with his feet as those other guys, but has a killer long ball, just like Nando Pinecker has a killer long ball, can hit that sort of like 50-meter pass out to his winger running over the top or whatever. So that's definitely something. The depth and quality of goalkeepers, the resurgence of powerful centre backs, powerful centre backs who can also still play with the ball at their feet, and then suddenly being able to develop a few creative wingers and players who can play in between the lines and getting into pockets or running in behind, like we've seen a big all in different ways, but the All Whites have Sarpreet Singh, Callum McCall, Elijah Just, Matt Garbutt, etc., Ben Old, etc., like a bunch of players who, those guys I mentioned there, are all like 21 to 26 age range. They all do it in different ways, but they are all creative players of a type and of a caliber that we haven't really had a lot of in the past, and suddenly we have this whole bunch of them, and that is still being reflected in the age grade teams as well coming through.